Hello everyone and welcome back to DLC. I am your host today, Joey Fitz, and today we're going to be diving into Echoes of the End, an action-adventure title from Merca Games and published by Deep Silver. But before we start, as we always do, I want to give a massive shout out to Game.Press and Deep Silver as well as Merca Games for providing us with a free review copy of the game. It's always appreciated and it helps us bring you honest, in-depth reviews like this one. So, let's talk about Echoes of the End, where it stands out, where it stumbles, and is it worth your time? Echoes of the End takes place in a lush, mysterious fantasy world filled to the brim with ancient magic, collapsing kingdoms, and a looming war that threatens to wipe out everything. You play as Rin, a powerful warrior known as a Vestige, who wields mystical powers tied to an ancient lineage. Alongside her companion, Abram, you'll uncover secrets of the world's past and secrets about Rin herself. The game blends third-person action with environmental puzzles and exploration. It's a story-driven adventure with a strong narrative focus and a pretty flawless cinematic presentation. Now, positives, because there's a lot to admire here. First of all, the graphics, the world design is absolutely incredible. Merca Games clearly put loads of effort into crafting this world. The lighting, the landscape, small environmental details all create a sense of huge scale and atmosphere. The game feels both epic and personal. Next, the storytelling and character dynamics are surprisingly strong. Rin and Abram's relationship feels genuine and grounded, which makes the emotional beats hit even harder than they would normally. The dialogue is very well acted, and the pacing keeps you invested from the very start of the game to the very finish. The puzzle and exploration elements also deserve quite a lot of credit. The game shines when it slows down and lets you interact with its environments, solving clever puzzles, exploring ruins, and uncovering bits of lore along the way. And considering this is Merca Games' first major release, it's a pretty impressive debut. The ambition and care put into this design clearly shows. But of course, Echoes of the End isn't perfect. The biggest criticism I have with it is the combat system. While it's functional, it can feel very stiff and underdeveloped. The combat animations sometimes lack fluidity and the mechanics don't evolve much as you progress through the game. It's perfectly serviceable, but it's not as satisfying as it can be, and at times it can feel quite generic. Playing this on PC, I also found quite a few technical hiccups, occasional frame rate drops, awkward camera angles, and some rough edges in its performance. Nothing game breaking, but it was enough to remind me that this wasn't a massive AAA production. And while the story is engaging, it's not the most original. You'll probably recognise a lot of the familiar tropes and setups, how the narrative works, but it doesn't break new ground. Still, these issues didn't ruin the experience. They just keep it from reaching that next level. So after my playtime in Echoes of the End, here's how I'd sum it up. I really enjoyed my time with the game. The world itself is incredible. The tone is cinematic and the sense of adventure is genuine. I found myself exploring the levels just to see what came next. The game struck a really good balance between quiet, reflective moments and the high-intensity sequences that came with it. The story, whilst a little bit familiar, is told with a lot of heart. Rin's personal journey feels meaningful, and the bond with Abram adds a lot of emotional depth, where a lot of games in this genre genuinely lack. That being said, the combat wore pretty thin after a while. I often preferred the exploration and puzzle solving actions to the fighting. And the technical issues reminded me that this is a smaller scale title. But honestly, those moments didn't ruin the experience, they just reminded me that the studio is still finding its footing. All things considered, I think Echoes of the End is a really solid, story-driven adventure that punches above its weight. It's an ambitious first outing from a really talented team, and it lays a really great foundation for whatever Merca Games does next. But the question I said at the start is, should you play Echoes of the End? Is it worth your time? If you're someone who loves a narrative-driven action-adventure, this is probably one that you should check out. Fans of games like Tomb Raider, A Plague Tale will probably feel right at home here. It's all about atmosphere, character, and storytelling, rather than non-stop combat or endless open-world checklists. If you're after a shorter, focused adventure, something probably within the 10 to 15 hour range with a beautiful environment and strong emotional beats, Echoes of the End is a pretty good pick for you. But if you want something with ultra-tight combat systems, massive sandbox exploration, and flawless performance, you might want to wait a few updates or for a sale to check this one out. For me, Echoes of the End is a recommendation, but with a few caveats. It's a memorable, heartfelt adventure that didn't quite reach perfection, but absolutely deserved your time. So that's it. I've been Joey Fitz. Thank you for stopping by. Thanks again for our friends over at Game Press and Deep Silver Games for the free review copy of Echoes of the End. And if you've enjoyed this review, make sure to follow or subscribe us on X, Game Club Pod, YouTube, Game Club Pod, join our Discord. The link for that is in our Twitter bio. Share your thoughts on these games and our DLCs. We'd love to hear what you think. But until next time, I'm Joey Fitz. See you in the next episode of DLC. Have a good one.